Welcome to the Visual Cast. Coming at you from California, I'm your host, Alon Hammer, aka Rem. The Visual Cast is a hybrid podcast where we sit down with some of the best, most interesting, and most exciting visual artists from all over the world. We chat about life, art, visuals, software, hardware, systems, crystals, alien downloads, spirituality, and catalysts. It's essentially a massive nerd out. But the guests also do a set where we dive into their computer and get an up-and-close look at how they make art, how they perform art, or really anything they want to share with us.
The world is like a ride at an amusement park, and it's fun for a while. Some people have been on the ride for a long time, and they begin to question, is this real, or is this just a ride? And other people have remembered, and they come back to us, and they say, hey, don't worry, don't be afraid, ever, because this is just a ride.
Today by one of my favorite people in the world, and I don't say that lightly, I really mean it. Just a beautiful human being, a beautiful alien, a lovely, sweet, kind person, an extremely talented person, somebody who I have learned from immensely and spent a nice amount of time with in faraway lands. And I'm super excited to have him on the podcast. He's a lovely person. I'm excited for you all.
What is it like?
Welcome to the podcast, Imri Shavit, Lumos Visuals.
I don't know. Well,
how's it going? How you doing, mate? Coming all the way
it's
from
gonna take
Australia.
a moment to get into that flow.
Nice.
Can you ask that again?
A moment. Yeah, I'm in an office of a friend. So excuse the decor. Toy Robot Media in Pasadena, LA. Shout out Toy Robot Media. And yeah, we're gonna jump right into it. I usually start off with a scripted question and then kind of like get into things a little bit more conversational. So, Imri, Achsheli, from the moment we met somewhere in the Alps of Switzerland, I knew we would be close friends. Your willingness, your drive, and your extreme talent are so present, so felt when meeting and talking to you that it's infectious. You have created some absolutely outstanding interactive installations. You've performed on some of the coolest stages around the globe and continue to develop and deploy super powerful tools and workflows. I truly am so inspired by watching you grow and excel. So to start things off, what is it like to be so full of creative energy while being as free and nomadic as you are?
So I haven't really put much thought into it. I think it's just the kind of thing you just experience, and I don't really think about it often. But then sometimes you get a reflection, kind of puts it in that your life is. I've felt that, this reflection telling me, wow, your life is fucking amazing. And like, how crazy is that? And it's just brings a lot of excitement to my heart. And and then it's expressed, at that very moment. It's like, and I love that feeling. And I'm feeling really grateful whenever I feel that. So very grateful, and not always present in my mind, but should be more present because there's a lot to be thankful for.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I think you said it really nicely. And you don't necessarily have to be thinking about it more. That might not necessarily be what's good for you. It might just be maybe just being present, or you know what? Just being appreciative of it is probably like enough to reflect the energy back. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to sit and be like, oh, my life's great. Oh, I'm so free. But just being appreciative, like you said, like expressing it and knowing it, I think is like, that's going to create that reflection, and that's going to come back to you as continuous, creative, free flowing kind of energy and thoughts and ideas. Yeah, I mean, you know, I loved Australia. I loved traveling there as well. It was so powerful for me as a young lad. And you're in an amazing position because you actually are an artist. You're not just traveling around. Not that there's anything wrong with just traveling around, but you're not just traveling around, going to see sites and do things. You're actually inside of your expression, inside of your career. Career is like a very small word, but you're inside of your like
Yeah.
your fulfillment. You're like literally everything you do in your travel is going towards your art, your expression, your career. I said it like 3 times, but this is very special. Not many people have that opportunity. When I was traveling in Australia, I wasn't, I mean, I guess I was making movies and I was filming stuff, and that was kind of my expression at the time. But yeah, I mean, this is powerful. This is a powerful thing. So I'm happy for you. I'm really happy for you that you can do that and you can have that that powerful thing.
Mm. And it's actually I think like the last almost 2 years since I left Israel to Australia, like have been like thinking back to what I wanted to do and like what I dreamt Australia was going to be like. Obviously, it's not like nothing like I thought it was going to be, but one thing I did fulfill, which was like performing on these big stages and like those like what I find like really, really amazing festivals that happen here, and just like to go on with this, doing what I love, like making installations and performing in festivals and just being present in that scene and that tribe. So that was fully something that, like I dreamt about it, dreamt of it, and actually happened.
Yeah. You're literally living the manifestation as we're talking right now. Some sort of interesting Ouroboros, like the more you dream the manifestation, the more it actually comes, and it just continues eating itself and filling itself. Like you said at the beginning, that reflection. Yeah, we're getting super esoteric. We haven't even started, so let's jump to Little Imri, and I know that Little Imri is not too far away, but I would love to. Come on, I'm like the old guy here, so I have to like make these jokes. But
okay, go ahead.
You grew up in Israel, in Jerusalem, is that right?
No, in in Modiin, which is
in Modiin. Oh, really? Did we talk about this before? We must have. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, because you're from
Hashmonaim. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is like everybody's like, what the hell are they talking about? So what was it like growing up in it's a city actually? Just tell us a little bit about kind of what it was like growing up in Modiin. Your schooling, was there, did you always wanted to do art as a kid? Was there kind of some sort of trajectory, some sort of push from somebody in your life, from a parent, from a school teacher, from something? Just give us a little bit of the background of Imri.
So interesting. So first of all, growing up in Modiin was like pretty boring. Like all you have is your friends. There was nothing else to do. You must know what I'm talking about because you grew up in a small village. But it was like a city. There was a lot of people, but there's actually nothing that you can do. There was no fucking anything. What's this signal? What are you doing?
What?
Are you just like steering your tea or something?
Yeah.
I wasn't. Okay.
I need to stay awake. It's like 10 o'clock at night. I need to have something to keep me awake.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry.
It's all right. No, I was just wondering if you're like trying to tell me something. But anyway, so what this created was a lot of boredom that we as like groups of friends had to fill. We just had to make something happen, and that actually this gap, this like boredom, created a lot of really really good things, and yeah, it just gave me the opportunity and the stage to try new things that were intriguing me, and yeah, this is like how I started. But going back to like school, so I grew up in a alternative school, like a democratic style school, where you don't really have to do a lot of things. Like you basically you choose which classes you want to go to and what do you want to do with your time to an extent. And I was never really into crafts or any arts when I was younger, but there was this one class that I always went to, like in comparison to everything else, which wasn't really into anything else. And that was digital art class, which yeah. And what we learned there was like I think I was like maybe ages like maybe 8, 9, 10, 11 possibly. And do you know GIMP, the software
Yeah.
GIMP, like an open source?
Photoshop.
So yeah, like open source Photoshop. So that's what he taught us.
Wow. Cool.
And he gave us like, he used to give us like, I remember this one, you just used to come to the class and just, hey, just give me something to do,
Right.
And he would say something like, create an apple that has a smiling face, or we also had Pivot. Remember, do you know Pivot? Like stick figures, you can like create stick figures and then animate them, like stop motion vibe.
Cool.
That was also, yeah. So the most important thing I learned then was how to search the internet, and like and basically that's parallel to like how to teach yourself anything, or like how to find information. And that's like one thing I'm really really grateful to this particular person. And I was actually a few times already. I was thinking to reach out to him and like have a chat, and just want to show him like what I'm doing today, and like to let him know that he's such a huge part of it.
That's very nice.
Because he is. I really like, yeah. Yeah, but I only actually started doing like digital art during COVID. I was doing like I was actually finishing my second year of national volunteering, which I did in Israel instead of going to the military. Because yeah, we'll talk about it. But anyway, I was working at this other alternative school, like as a young adult, and I somehow started teaching carpentry, even though I didn't know. Like, and I never tried. I only tried it there, and then suddenly there was a need for it, and I just like started doing it with the kids. And yeah, I didn't know what I was doing, but I learned as I went. Again, this is like the same tools of like just teach yourself whatever you need to know, or look up whatever you need to know. And with the kids, it's just like it doesn't matter what you actually know, because you're just learning with them anyway, and that's the entire point. So if you are in a learning situation and you just take them along with you, it's like it's much more like, yeah, it's magic. Yeah, but COVID happened, and then I had to go back to my parents' home for a little bit, and yeah, I used to play some video games, and I used to like be that guy, that friend that cracks the games for all the other friends so we can all play together. And so I was kind of nifty with computers, but I didn't have my own computer for many years. So in COVID, I bought like a small GPU laptop, and then I found I found a Kinect at home
Mm.
because I also used to play Xbox, and I found a Kinect at home, and I was like,
Wow.
whoa, that was cool. I remember that used to be cool, and what can be done with it? Or I don't know why I had this idea that you can do something with it. I might have seen something, or I don't know, but I looked it up and I found like how you can actually use it and which softwares can interface with it. And TouchDesigner was one of the only ones that.
TouchDesigner.
You don't have an animation for that?
I
Come
do.
on.
I don't. That's like
You
the
don't.
one that I always. I'm supposed to have one. I even have a button that says TD, that doesn't do anything at the moment.
Oh no.
I've been meaning to do one. I just don't know what to do for it. I want to have like,
You've,
like heaven, or like like angels flying around or something, like, oh,
or maybe you need like something that like throws nodes out,
Oh, yeah.
throws like
That'd be cool.
you can maybe use it with my thing, which I'll talk about later.
Okay, cool.
You can use the thing.
I want to use the thing. Yeah, we're gonna get to TouchDesigner. This is really great. Before like we jump ahead a little bit, I want to stick a little bit around like I always find it fascinating where like people find these trajectories of creativity and stuff, and I think that it's super cool that you have this very fond memory of your teacher. When you so from that kind of moment or from that young age till COVID, was there pieces or times where you kind of felt like you wanted to do something creative, or was it kind of just like you were just kind of living and COVID was really like an opportunity for you to really pursue it? Was there kind of like, and when you were pursuing it during COVID, was it like, what made you feel like this is something you want to do for the rest of your life? Like, what was the the catalyst is a nice word that I like to use. What was the catalyst that made you feel like, hey, okay, I'm going to play with this Connect, but actually I'm going to like spend hours and hours and days and weeks and years with this software and kind of becoming an installation artist and a visual artist?
Yeah. Well, I never, like when I started, I never thought it would go this far. Like I was kind of leaving it blank. Like I wasn't trying, like I let myself fantasize, but also I didn't want to get too attached to any ideas about it, but I was just, letting myself enjoy it and see what happens. And I think what got me really excited is that in the beginning was like just this feeling like of how I'm combining these two worlds that I love, and like computers, which I haven't really thoroughly touched for years, and then like running events, which as I said before, like growing up in Modiin was like, the thing was that we started making our own events, right? And we used to make like free events, just like donation based. It started like in a squat, and then it moved into more into the woods. But it was always like very communal, very free, very like inclusive. But where was I going with this?
Events and doing things and kind of like, the catalyst to want to continue down this path.
Right. So when I started trying out like how to use the Kinect, right? And I bought a projector because I also, through that, I somehow remembered that in this projection mapping installation, which like really impressed me. Like I just had this memory of like being really impressed from a certain
Do you
install.
remember what it was?
Yeah, it was when I lived in Haifa, when I did the volunteering, when I was about 19 or 20. And there was this like Haifa City Port Festival. It was in like one of the big hangars, and it was just like, imagine like a big hangar, okay, like a big space, industrial space, with music and installs and art stalls and stuff. And then there's just like this patch of floor, like maybe 2 by 2, of these little old tiles, that plain white tiles, pretty dirty, but they had lots of little cracks in them and like little spaces. And there was just like a projector from the top, and they only mapped within the cracks.
Oh, cool.
And they just made it look like something was happening under the floor,
It.
you know?
I love
Like
that. I love
and
it.
like it really got me. It really got me.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
cool.
I just like I was so impressed. And then I think I asked that guy how he did it, and I think he even told me that he was using GIMP to do that. And then I was even more like, whoa!
I know that one. Like, you know
Which
that
one?
I'm saying you know that one.
Oh
Like,
yeah. Exactly. Yeah, so I bought a projector so that I could, display whatever I wanted on. It's just like a small house projector, and um, so I brought this. I made this like little Kinect thing out of a tutorial, and I tweaked it a little bit after I got my head around a little bit of TouchDesigner, and then I brought this to a secret COVID party that was somewhere in an abandoned village near Jerusalem, like an old stone building, and people just played with it, and it was amazing, and everyone in Lifta, yeah.
Nice. And abandoned. Abandoned. That's funny that that's how you said it. I like that. I knew what you were talking about right away.
Oh yeah. Yeah, forget the context for a second. It's like just old buildings, whatever.
It does. It
It
happens
was
to be one of the
abandoned.
coolest. It happens to be one of the coolest places in Jerusalem. But it's just like funny
Yeah.
that it's like it's not really like an abandoned place. It's like a literal place. But whatever. Anyway, okay. So during COVID, you went there, and it was like a secret COVID party. Shh, don't tell anybody. And you did some mapping on the lifta, on the buildings.
I just some Kinect stuff, just like your most basic Kinect installation, But I just brought it there just to see what happens, and then I guess I just saw how everybody reacted, and so many eyes were like, "Whoa, how did you do that?" And like, "Wow," and just feeling this confirmation of, "Wow, this is actually really cool." People really think it's really cool, and this can go much further. And I saw the potential of how far this could go. Like I saw how much I wasn't seeing. Like I felt how much I wasn't even realizing that can be done. And a few months later, I made my own event with my crew from home, and it was also like still COVID, still very secret. But me and a good friend of mine, who's an amazing graphic designer and artist, we just decided to make our own stage, because we never did that for our events. So we built the stage in my backyard. I lived in Jerusalem at that point, and we built it and in my backyard, and I did the projection mapping for the first time, all in TouchDesigner. And then we just did that. We just went to the forest, made the event happen, built the entire thing, put the projectors up. It's a sort of event where you do everything.
Yeah.
You invite the people, you make the logistics, you do the logistics, you move things around yourself, you build everything, you make sure everyone has everything they need, and then Anyway, a month later, we found ourselves in a small festival, making another stage for them.
Nice.
And I'm doing production mapping. Yeah, just maybe a month and a half afterwards. I just started taking flight from there.
Amazing.
Very quickly, I felt. Although, yeah, before I left Israel, I think that was the biggest gig, the biggest stage that I did. That it was.
Which one was that? Was that the lizard that you did?
The laser was in my own event. That was
Okay.
the one afterwards.
Okay, cool.
It was more like an Egyptian style stage with
Sweet.
like a beetle in the middle.
Oh, cool.
Um, so I think that was the biggest thing I did in Israel. I also did that same festival a year later, VJ wise.
Super cool.
Yeah,
So it's kind of
yeah,
just like a, you know, I love this trajectory of just like filling a need. You know, you have this like okay, you have this semi understanding of visuals from playing with the Connect, from being a little bit of a nerd, a little bit of a geek, and also like this past your teacher teaching you GIMP and everything. And then you're like, okay, well, we do parties. Somebody needs to do visuals, I'll do visuals. Okay, I kind of know how to do it, and then from that you kind of get inspired and grow. And I love this. I think it's like this is kind of like a love story with your, not with yourself, but with your creative journey. It's very beautiful.
mm,
So as a self-taught artist, as kind of like someone who figured things out on their own, are you very are you, because now I know what you do now. Like you don't just do visuals and projection mapping. You're actually like a developer. You understand Python and GLSL. You have a very high level understanding of development. Maybe you're not a coder per se, but if you've spent 100 hours in node graphs, then you're a coder to some degree. So is there some element of it that you kind of can put your finger on it, that it's like, I like solving problems, I like the creativeness of coding, I like making tools to help other people? Is there something about it that's the next level? Like you went from VJing, I enjoy it, I'm getting feedback, I'm making art, I'm doing installations, to I'm developing, I'm doing something else. It's a little bit more advanced, a little bit more specific.
mm. Well, first of all, yes to everything you said. You just ticked all the boxes,
Good.
I think. I recently, as you know, like I've recently started making like a little toolkit for TouchDesigner, which is still in development, and we might talk about it later. But I think I love solving those riddles, and I love what I love about TouchDesigner is that it's open. Like, you know what? Even before TouchDesigner, like when I was teaching carpentry, I found that I was feeling sometimes that things are clumsy in the workspace, and I found that it was really important to me to make everything really convenient. And like always make things really accessible and like really clear and like really available to use for the kids. And I know that if it's available to me, then it's going to be available to them as well, because we're the same. Then in TouchDesigner, the beautiful thing is that you can actually create your own tools and make your workspace really it's like a water slide. You want to slide through and flow. You don't, yeah, you don't want friction and static. You don't want like you want it super smooth, so you can go in the flow and actually make that thing. So, and then I started making. So I wanted to make this project, which I don't know if we should get into now. But like I think that's when I started making my own tools. When I started working on LAiLA, the body projection mapping project.
Yeah. We're not yet getting into it, but I'd love to talk about it. I mean, LAiLA is a super awesome. We can actually show a little bit of video my browser will allow me. But LAiLA is a super cool project that Imri does or did, I guess, with a dancer, and it's like a really beautiful, like body tracking kind of esque kind of expression of movement and body. Something that I met you before you did it, or actually I met you, I think, when you were just starting to do it. And I remember we had a
As we
whole
were doing it, yeah,
as you were doing it, we had a whole conversation about it because
yeah.
for me, that's like one of the first projects that I did. Like not first projects, but one of the first projects that I really took to heart and made it something that I really was proud of was a project with my wife, then girlfriend. But we did like we did like a motion tracking, virtual character that was kind of like in live, basically real time, and it was birthed from a Connect installation that we did that was like an expression or like a excuse me an exploration of the body and movement. And then I just kind of, what I loved about the body and movement was like the 3D-ness of it all. So I went to like get a motion capture suit. But I remember when you guys were doing it, I'm trying to find it now. Let me see if I can get it good. When I was doing it, I remember you showing me some videos of it. When it was just kind of like at the start of it, and I was super impressed. And then when I saw you releasing it, I was like really blown away because I thought that it was just it was very unique in the sense that body tracking Connect stuff is not new. It's not that it's not special. It's just not. It's not new. Like, this is something that has been going on for a long time. So seeing something that is fresh is always so great. Yeah, and I'll let you introduce it now on your own if you want.
Like, I was only going to touch it because I think that's when I started making tools for myself, just because I needed, like, I was like, okay, but how do you do that? Okay, you need something that does that. And then I started looking for things that I found all these new, and it was still like, like there's like this website, the Olib, right? And it was just like starting out then, and like people were starting to like, I felt how the community was growing, and I started like taking inspiration from people who build tools, and starting to figure out how to build my own for myself.
This is the one that I think this is a good one. There's also the other one in the pool that is really
the skate
cool
park.
too.
Yeah,
in the skate park.
It's a different thing though. Yeah, that's the one video that we managed to make.
So yeah, tell us about like kind of the making tools for yourself, and what that kind of felt like, and what the expression of that was.
Well, I can't quite remember what it was that I made myself in that sense in there, besides the actual solution for the, for the matching, like the mapping onto a moving body, which I don't know if it can be called really like a tool. Just I love that video.
Yeah, it's really so good.
So actually, when we went to do this one, this was like there's a theater in Jerusalem called the Train Theater, and they had like it was like the Train Theater Festival opening event. So the event happened in the skate park that's like next door, and we wanted to do, this is the space that we were given, this like skate park pool made of concrete. And we wanted to do our normal setup, but we found that it was just too big. Like the range of the Kinect was not using the entire movement that, like, I think Alma, the dancer, she was like the performer, she was feeling trapped in this little invisible square of the Kinect's range, so we just decided to completely like do a whole new thing that wouldn't rely on tracking. So then she could just move around wherever the projection is. She can just
Interact with
roll
it. It's
around,
really
interact with it. And the thing is, this is not actually automatic. This is like me playing with my finger on an iPad and changing parameters and like pointing. So yeah, that was like a jam between us. And sometimes I would take the lead and sometimes she would take the lead. Like nothing was actually planned. We just had um, a few scenes set up and I would just, you know, yeah, that was like, that was a really, I think that one was the most enjoyable performance that we had.
mm.
Um, even
Yeah.
though it might not be as technologically special as body, like real-time body projection mapping, but in terms of just us having fun, this was like the most interaction that we could actually have. Um,
Do you think like
yeah,
this is such a great juxtaposition of like the two things, because one is like a live performance where you're kind of like literally performing with your talent, with a dancer, with the performer, and the other one is like it's all automated and you kind of made the tools to work really well with the performer. you know Besides for having to like make a last minute decision of like, okay, we're gonna do like something different. Did was it difficult for you to like let go of, oh, I made all these tools to like make this automation, and now we're gonna do something like maybe in retrospect, obviously it's really cool and fucking amazing, but in the moment I'm sure it was kind of like, oh, this is gonna be bad, and it's not gonna be as good as we want it to be. Was it difficult for you to let go? Like, was it like a hard? Because I know from my experience, like I can't do that. Like I can, but it's difficult. It's difficult, and I think that it's obviously like a very big growing moment. Of like, look how cool it is when you do that.
just let go and accept reality.
Yeah,
And
like,
then
yeah,
you yeah, so you're really on point. Like it was really difficult in the beginning, but then looking at it from all angles, I just realized that it wasn't going to be good anyway.
right.
Like I just had this realization of like this is not going to work well, so we have to find another solution. And I think quite shortly, like after accepting that, the solution just like
Popped up.
appeared,
Yeah.
like or like something just like caught our eyes, or I don't know, like I don't even remember how, but this idea came up, and then suddenly it was like, whoa, this is like fucking amazing, like, and yeah, it's an important lesson um, to life, like don't resist reality, don't resist, um, because resistance is wasting energy sometimes, like resistance
Yeah,
turns into heat, it's like,
totally.
and I'm
Yeah,
not saying
be like water.
I yes, but like I'm not saying no resistance, just anything that happens. I'm not a leaf in the wind, I have weight and I have a direction, but also, yeah, I'm not going to, um, yeah, ignore reality or just, yeah, go straight on with something that's obviously
Not gonna work.
being held on to too much.
Mm, mm,
Mm.
Interesting. Yeah, I think back to moments like that where that decision could have been made, and I'm trying to like think of one that's like potent, but um, yeah, I'm the type of person that like I'd almost rather fail inside of keep on trying, and I think that sometimes that's good and sometimes that's not good. My journey has been also like understanding when it is time to move on or when it's time to change and shift gears. But also, I think that a lot of my power is not giving up. You know what I mean? Like I think that has been like there's been moments where it's like, okay, this is not going to work, and I'm like, no, it is going to work, and I'm going to do it, and then sometimes that comes out to like amazingness, and sometimes it comes out to mediocrity, and maybe that, thankfully, I don't think I've had many times where it comes out to like a failure, because I think if you continue to pursue, something will come, right? It's unlikely if you keep on pursuing that it will fail. It just might not be good. It might be mediocre or, shitty or worst case scenario.
Or the journey there, like,
it's so painful that it's like, it does not enjoyable. Yes, 100%, 100%.
Yeah. Sometimes it's worth to like push through, and sometimes it's important to know when to just like, just like do this and let things move on their own for a little bit, and then go back and like, okay, how's reality looking now?
Yeah. Especially when you're working with somebody else, with like, a partner, especially like, not that this is like not that this is not like women are like this or not like this, but just in general, I think that, in my experience, like when I worked with Yael, she's so good at going with the flow. She's so good at like understanding like, hey, stop, let's do something else. And like my lesson with her and our relationship has been like, her intuition is like a needle, it's good.
I know what you're talking about. And in both of our cases, like we haven't mentioned that, but the performer in that, what used to be my partner at the time, like, that, but for context, and I totally identify with what you're saying. Like, I learned to trust her intuition, like, as, sometimes like, I wouldn't say over my own, but I would say when I'm unclear, her intuition is like wins for sure. Like, no questions asked.
It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. Like, how potent a woman's intuition can be. Like, it's some godly kind of magical thing that I think we as men don't really, we definitely don't understand it, but we also sometimes don't acknowledge it or don't see it for what it is. And I think that the world would probably be a better place if we did. My relationship would be a better place if I did all the time, for sure. But my ego doesn't always allow me to. But yeah, I think that, regardless of who the gender of the person or what their kind of thing is, I think when you're working with somebody else, there is like kind of a thing of like, okay, or you know what? Not even when we're working with somebody else, when you're going to deliver something for other people, whether it's a performance, whether it's, maybe a class or something that you're going to impart to other people, there has to be a moment where you're like, okay, I can continue and follow through with this because my ego, my being, my energy doesn't allow me to stop. And maybe the result will be mediocre, but maybe that's selfish, right? Maybe there's something to there that's like, okay, I have a responsibility, whether it's to my partner, whether it's to the people that I'm here for, whether it's to a client, maybe, where it's like, I have to, my responsibility is not to be mediocre because I wanted to finish through with something. My responsibility is to teach or show or impart or et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I pray and I hope that we can always know what step to take to reach that goal of like fulfilling the goal. You know what I mean?
Amen. Yeah,
Oh, man.
amen to that.
I love you, Imri. I love you so much.
I love you too.
So now that we, talking about loving each other, we met in Shankra. It's a festival in Switzerland. In Switzerland, yeah. Very beautiful festival, lovely festival. I was actually the visual director there for a few years until they stopped doing it. And I just loved it. I have such a strong memory of meeting you because I was walking down the path, and all of a sudden this like little redhead kid comes out and is like, hey, you're Ram alone, or like you knew me somehow. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm like, and you're like, oh, I'm Israeli. Like we kind of started speaking in Hebrew, and you just kind of caught me, and we started talking, and and it was very clear. And I said this in the intro, but it was very clear that I'm like, oh, I really like this guy. He's like cool. He's excited. He's gonna come to the VJ booth. He's touch designer. Like, I've been using touch designer for a really long time, but maybe up until like at that point, I would consider myself still like a beginner, maybe an intermediate. Like I'm definitely nowhere where I am now, where like I'm developing systems and making like softwares inside of it. So I was like super excited to meet anybody that was doing something in touch designer. And I just remember you were like, yeah, come hang out in our tent after, and you were like pointing, you're like camping right on the street. I love that. It was so fun. And then you came and you kind of hung out at the VJ booth for a lot of the festival. I think maybe even your girlfriend at the time was a little bit upset at it because you were kind of like just with us the whole time. And I was like, this guy's awesome. Like he's like coming and spending all this time learning and seeing and teaching. And I made a joke before we got on the podcast, but you were like, you passed the test of, I was like, okay, I have this problem in my patch. Can you help me? And you're like, yeah, I can do it. And you just like, and you like came up with a solution. It wasn't like a fix, but it was a solution to something. And I was like, I love this guy. And
and I also felt like in that moment, I felt that like, okay, this is my moment to do something. And like, I felt like it was my moment,
No, it was. It really was. And we kind of stayed in touch. And then, when I got this gig in Australia 2 years ago, you were traveling in Australia, and it was like an instant like, yes, please come, be part of the team, do visuals. And you did, and it was really great. It was super nice to work alongside you. Now it's been already 2 years plus. You've been in Australia for a while. You've done a lot of festivals in Australia, some big festivals in Australia. We should shout out also our friend Blake, Phosphorus Visuals. What's his last name? Blake
Hudson.
Hudson. Oh, I knew it. Blake Hudson, Phosphorus Visuals. Super cool guy.
Yeah, big shout out.
Really, big shout out. Really lovely guy. Really nice guy. Really talented dude as well. OG visual artist. So just give us a little bit of a rundown. You've been doing some super cool stuff in Australia. You have almost a company there, like almost like a some sort of home base that you do some interactive stuff with, or have an installation there. Is that kind of correct? Is that more or less right?
Yeah.
Just give us kind of like what's it like being an artist in Australia, traveling around and blasting your light on everybody.
So it's, first of all, it's ever changing. It's like it keeps changing as I go. Like the first year in Australia, I came with my ex-partner Alma, which was also the performer, and we actually performed in one festival in Tasmania. We performed our performance like on the main stage. We made this whole thing, and it was super intense to get prepared to. But ever since then, like I've been living in a van, fitting it out, like full-time living in a van. And I've set it up, with like everything, bed, kitchen, and a desktop. Like not a desktop computer, but like I have a little workstation there. I'm actually looking at it right here through the window. So yeah, I've made myself a little home on wheels that was my full-time home. I had 2 projectors there that I pre-ordered from like secondhand from eBay before I even landed in Australia. So they landed before me, and once I got there, I already had them, so that because I wanted to know that I can just like do it, like bring the whole thing, not depend on anyone. So yeah, after that festival, we started traveling up the coast, and at some point it just became my own van, and she got her own. So yeah, I would just come with my own setup, my own projectors, my own workstation that had its own battery. Um, and actually, you've met me with that with the same van.
Yes, I remember.
Remember, like at
And
Nick's,
the
you had this
projectors.
problem with your monitor. Yeah,
I remember
yeah.
that.
Funny, funny that we've met with that thing, and now I'm telling you about that. And actually, pretty fucking cool. But yeah, on my way, so I did like the festival route. Like in Australia, it's quite a big continent, so um, the festival season actually travels north before it travels south, because the season like warms up in the north where it's tropic, while the rest is pretty cold and rainy. And in the north, it actually becomes relatively dry and not as hot. Um, so yeah, I did that. Went back, did a few festivals. I met Blake, Phosphorus Visuals, in the same festival where you brought me, at Nick's festival. And I've actually spent a good amount of time with him in his place. His family was away, and I needed a place to stay. And I just stayed in his beautiful jungle home, and we jammed a lot on um, visuals and taught things to each other, and we just reconnected. Um, and I spent a few more months there, actually, like 2 to 3 months, I think, in the area. Um, he brought me to all his gigs. Sometimes I would work with him. Sometimes I would just do something smaller on the side. Yeah, he kind of took me under his wing, and we became a team,
Oh yeah.
honestly. And we've made like so far, I think we did maybe 5 or 6 festivals together
Nice.
at this point. We just last week, I just came back from Mushroom Valley. Uh, And we also scored a few really nice projectors recently, 20K lasers,
Ooh, lovely.
as a group. So we actually have quite a few of them together, like me, him, and another 2 friends of his. Um, yeah, and in the last 6 or 6, maybe 8 months, I've been more stationary. I got invited to do this immersive gallery in Byron Bay, which is
Nice.
like a little coastal town, very popular touristic area. And they needed someone to like they wanted one of my installations, the one with the one with the fabric, where you push your finger and like the step haptic, like um you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, of course.
It's like it's an installation with a back projection and a Kinect behind it. So as you push the screen, you get like a feedback on like exactly where you touched and according to how far you pushed it. So they called me and they wanted that for the new gallery that they're building. And as we were talking, it looked like they wanted more and more things, and they wanted more things of me. And suddenly we realized together that I was running out of visa time in Australia, and I might not actually have enough time to do all that. Um, and so they became my sponsors, and now I'm actually still in Australia thanks to that, because otherwise I would have run out of visa. And yeah, it was a like I spent a lot of time there during the build. It used to be an old supermarket, so everything had to be fully redone. Like the entire building, inside and out, was painted black, and building walls, and spent some really cool days, like field lab vibes, kind of like
Nice.
felt like I was in like Assassin's Creed game, like just like opening like folding desktops and like just working on projection mapping in like industrial space. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd love to jump into. I think it's a good time to jump into your project, kind of what you wanted to share with us. And then, after we can definitely talk about some other things that I have here that I want to bring up. Yeah, I mean, do you want to tie it in a little bit to kind of like what it is that you're doing now? Or we could just jump right into it. I either way is good for me. Because you were kind of talking about the company, so it's kind of related, right? In some way, or no?
Yeah, but actually, I think before we started the pod, we had a little conversation, and you made me realize that I should share what I'm doing now, because it's like it's more alive, like I feel like more connected to it, rather than showing something old that I'm really proud of. But it's better to show the product and not the inside of it, because honestly, I'm not sure I remember so much what I did there, and I don't want to, I actually want to show you something that I'm working on. So,
Perfect.
yeah, so it's not very related to the company.
Okay.
I'm not actually part of that company. I'm actually like a freelancer working under that company.
Copy.
Yeah, and sponsored by, but
right. No, it's
still
amazing that
freelancer.
they did that for you. That's like, it's life changing. It allows you to go back to Australia, get your longer visa. It's like, it's really special.
And actually, it's like the person who was actually sponsoring me. We also we got really close. It feels like family. It feels like I have an uncle here in Australia.
That's so nice.
Like he looks after me, and I love him, and it's pretty wholesome in a way.
You're such a cute guy. Okay, cool. So let's jump into your project. I'll let you take it away. If I have any questions, I'll chime in. But I'll kind of let you do your thing and kind of show it off. Let's go. Let's see what we got.
So this is disclaimer. This is a work in progress. Like, this is literally, I've just tidied, I made it like a bit more tidy just before the pod, but this is actually quite a mess. So this is sort of like a toolkit or a plugin for TouchDesigner. And I started making it because I've been eyeing this visual effect that our friends Project Gamma use a lot. And I didn't know how they made it, but I've been eyeing it in their videos for a while. And it's gonna be interesting because yeah, exactly. You just told me that you were gonna interview them, so I wonder if they're gonna talk about that or not. But but anyway, I got this this little insight of like what tool are we using, and I was like, oh, actually, I think I think I can build this. And once so I looked into it and I found, or maybe I should just show what it does and then get into it. So the main thing is it's like a growth animation. So you give it a bitmap, so a binary map, so like a texture that has white pixels and black pixels, or just pixels that their alpha is 0. And
nice.
Yeah, it's kind of like this. It's as if you were drawing vectors and using MapMapper to do line tracing. Yeah. But it would work with any pixel map, and it would just grow within the boundaries of the pixel map. So that's the heart of it. And then there is the first part, actually, that so there's a few things happening here. This is the input texture, which is just like a random thingy I found online. It gets cleaned up using a threshold. And then I don't know if it's very visible through the stream, but I'll zoom in a bit. But what happens here is that a gradient is created, and the way that it's created, it's as if a gradient is created from the internal parts, like the highest values are in the internal parts of the map, like of the of the shape basically, and then it gradients out to black towards the edges. And what that gives us is the ability to then, using a lookup in TouchDesigner and a ramp, I can actually create like this kind of interesting internal shapes. So like I can actually, if I play with the parameters of this ramp here, for example, if I take the period a bit lower, then we can see like the same shape repeating inside the boundaries of the shape. So I spent some time figuring out how to do it. I tried doing it with like geometry. I dealt with SOPs, and in the end, I just found that this creates the results I desire. Although again, it's still like in development. So yeah, you can do like a bunch of these things. It's something I kind of like. But the thing is, this is how you can create like new maps. So I can create the growth like in this one shape, and it's going to look like this. Depending on where the growth is starting. But then if I, sorry if I'm being a bit fiddly, I like moving the screen around. I like moving around the screen a lot, and like when I'm thinking or explaining. But I found like at some point I realized that when I do that, people like are having a hard time to follow. But I always do that. It's like hand gestures for me,
Muscle memory.
Anyway, yeah. What this does, it creates like another shape within the shape, and then you can have like more growth, right? So I don't know if you can actually see that now.
Yeah, of
it's a bit blurry.
It's super cool.
Yeah. So, and then there's this other part where you can actually decide where the growth starts from. So you have this component that creates points where you click, and you can control. So I want the animation to start from here, here, and here. And these would be the points, the starting points. And then if I put that into there.
Nice. So cool.
Yeah. So each one of those like has, obviously it's like its own component. Like this one works with a replicator and a little bit of Python, and the growth itself. I actually started making this with a tutorial by Electronaut that talks about growth and feedback. And it was actually working pretty well out of the box, doing what I wanted to. But it had a few issues, like I couldn't actually control the speed of the growth and a few other parameters. So I've actually turned to ChatGPT and started like directing it into helping me creating this GLSL, because as you mentioned in the beginning, I'm no coder, but I do understand what's happening. Mm-hmm. And yeah, like it's been really, really, really amazing to be able to utilize like my basic knowledge of coding, like using ChatGPT to expand it, and like it's basically a superpower. It's an extension, an enhancement of what you already know possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, the growth can be controlled now. Hey?
No, I'm just gonna say ChatGPT, especially when you know what you're looking for, or you know what to ask it. It's it's wild, and that's why I said before, like you're a developer, you're a coder. Like if you're not those things, then it's going to be hard to use ChatGPT to write code and to develop things. But if you are, and you do understand what it is you're looking for, you understand what it is that you need to ask, it's like a superpower. There is a very clear ceiling You know, there's a very clear ceiling when it comes to ChatGPT. When you start getting into very deep and depth, when your code becomes too long or too intricate, it starts hallucinating. But when you want to just prototype something, when you want to start something or have a beginning to something, it's really like magic.
It needs your direction. Like you need to direct it
Yes.
in every step of the way, and you need to be on top of things. Like you have to keep track of what it's actually changing, not just like
Totally.
blindly feeding it errors and trying again. Like sometimes that can help as well if it's just a syntax error or something. But although I think it's gonna change soon. You know, like
Maybe.
honestly, I don't think we're far away from the time where you will have like a language model that can actually create nodes in TouchDesigner. You know.
Well, yeah, that's not because of ChatGPT. That's because TouchDesigner is changing the way that their file system's working. Because right now, a touch file is hex code. If you right click on it and do open with text editor, it's just hex. It doesn't actually mean anything. But they're actually converting the whole TouchDesigner library and the whole TouchDesigner file into a readable text format. And once it's a readable text format, then ChatGPT can start making nodes. Because
wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we talked about it on the episode with Daniel Molnar, because he actually we talked about it on the episode with .simulate, and Daniel also talked about it. But basically, LAiLA.simulate was making like some Python scripts to try and feed ChatGPT, like, you know, here's a list of rules that you have to follow to make nodes. And it was very, very difficult to make it do it because the parameters and a lot of different things. But then once the TouchDesigner file is readable and writable, then you can start making nodes. But again, the issue is that there's always going to be a limit of how many words can go in and how many words can come out. It's just inherently a limitation of large language models. So I'm dubious if it's going to be like a one-click thing. But, you know, that being said, I don't know. I think right now we're at a super plateau when it comes to AI, and this is off topic. I'd rather see this project. AI is boring. Let's see what you have here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think some of it, like all of these components, I built a few times, and like this one, I'm quite happy with. This one is the one that I'm working on right now, the actual growth one. So the one thing, the problem I had with the feedback-based growth was that it was always tied to the project FPS. And that's a problem because sometimes you just want it to be faster, depending on the shape and the spreading. Because how that spreading works is that it's just like a feedback loop with a blur inside, so it expands, right? It expands every frame. But then you always, in every loop of inside the loop, you actually mask it. So it never actually spreads outside of the boundaries of your bitmap. The thing is, to make it faster, when it's bound to a certain frame rate, you need to make the expansion larger every frame, right? Like, if you're staying with me. And then that just confines your speed. So I wanted to make this completely oblivious of the project's frame rate, which is why I went to build this in GLSL and not in the internal, because every other operator, even if once it's more than one operator, it's inherently tied to the cook rate of the project. So right now I'm actually controlling the speed with the amount of passes. So this is the one custom parameter that's here is the amount of passes that the GLSL code runs each frame of the project. So it's like a multiplication. So if I put this on 20, you'll see that it's like just running the growth algorithm 20 times per frame. And if it's on 1, it's very, very slow.
Interesting.
And
it doesn't affect performance because it's not computing more. It's just doing it in less time. Is that correct?
No, it's computing more passes, so it is taking more computational power, but it's so fast that you don't feel it. Like it's like, look at this. Even if I turn this to 100, like, okay, this is a bit intense. You can't see it, but it's like now it's like 3.5 milliseconds
No,
of
3.5
GPU time.
milliseconds
But
is
this is
not that
like,
much.
it's not that much. It's also, it's like 100 passes, and it's like way faster than what I would probably ever use. But anyway,
No, but it's super cool that you can slow. I mean,
yeah,
going fast is boring anyways. Going slow is cool. The
yeah.
fact that you could slow it down is super cool. Yeah, it's fascinating. So, yeah,
And
what
then the
else?
post processing, I think I still want to find a way to do the like more post processing with GLSL. Like, for example, I want to find a way to, in the same way that I've made this gradient, right? And then I can like remap things into it, like make this type of animation happen, right?
Mhm.
I want to be able to do the same, like but I want the gradient to map the growth order. Okay, so if this is growing from a certain direction to another, like I want this area to be black, and the front, like, the nose of the growth to be white.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
This is kind of like my next idea. I don't know if
Yeah,
it's
we
actually
spoke about this
possible.
before. I remember.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the one time we've
When I
met,
was
like
in
it
Israel.
was actually like,
Yeah, it was a few
yeah,
weeks
like a
ago.
few weeks ago. I don't know how to do this yet, but um, yeah, I found this other thing just actually, it was just this morning before like just before now.
Mhm.
I just made this like little, um, like this, like a cache. So this shows us like the last, like -5 frames. So like, yeah, like it keeps a few frames, and then outputs 5 frames back in this case. And then I'm using a difference operation between the current frame and the frame that was 5 frames ago. And then the difference is basically the growing edge of the simulation.
Like
And
the
then,
point where it's growing.
yeah, the point where it's growing, exactly. And then just like applying some,
Nice.
feedback, post-processing, coloring. And then the result is like,
Oh
you know,
wow.
looks like this. And like, I'll just speed it up a little bit so it's more, adds more trails, I guess. Let's put this on. Yeah, this is cool. And then if you like compose them on top of each other,
Mhm. Super cool. This is
what I
VJing, huh?
really, yeah, this is directed towards DJing. And what I like about this is that actually, like, for example, working with someone like Blake, who uses his vectors a lot. Like he does a lot of things with, with like, um, he would draw the vectors on his iPad and then use them in Notch, and then use them in Resolume, and use them like for everything, or for 3D things. And I haven't found yet that I don't really use vectors for anything but to create 3D objects. So I was less inclined to add that to my workflow, but I did want some kind of cool, controllable, like line tracing animations, because that's always a good, it's a winner,
Yeah,
you know, just
definitely.
line tracing always does the trick. Yeah, so this fits really well within my workflow, which is more like a bitmap based, pixel based
Yeah,
in.
image based.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I am going to release this when it's finished, most likely for free, because it's my first tool and I don't feel like making a big deal out of it. I just want to see what people, how people use it, how it can be improved. I just really want to learn from this, and I think it can be really useful for others. So
Could you
this
show
will
us
be
some?
out there.
That's awesome.
Huh?
It's exciting. I'm excited to play with it and get it. I mean, I know I have it, but I'm excited to get it to work well. Can you jump into this distance transform and show us a little bit about how that works?
Yeah, so it's basically it's using a library called Sci-Fi, and you had a problem with that one, remember? Like
Yeah.
that's the thing you had a problem with.
Mm-hmm.
And this is again a ChatGPT directed script that creates, like, applies the distance transform method, or like it's like I guess it's a concept or a type of algorithm, I suppose. And briefly, how it actually works is, I'm not sure I'll be very accurate now, so don't quote me on this, but basically it takes a bitmap, right? This one. And for every pixel, it iterates through every pixel and it checks whether it's white or black. If it's black, it just moves on. If it's white, it will look for the closest black pixel.
Mm-hmm.
For every white pixel, it will go around it to all its neighbors until it finds a black pixel,
Mm-hmm.
and it will check if this is the closest black pixel. And then once it's finished, like once it finds the closest black pixel, it will save that distance as a value in the pixel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah, and it goes through every single pixel, and then the result is, and then in the end, it normalizes the highest to the lowest. So this is obviously in like relatively to the entire texture. This would be one of the furthest points from this would be one of the furthest white pixels from a black pixel.
Mm-hmm.
Catch my drift? Like this is why it's white.
And as it gets closer to black, it
I hope
becomes more gray.
I hope that was understandable enough.
That's very accurate. Or it sounds very accurate.
So yeah,
it's almost
that's how the distance
it's almost
transform.
like a depth map, but it's not relying on depth. It's relying on like the distance of white to black.
Yeah, exactly. And it does create this like
almost depth map
pseudo 3D-ness. Yeah. So yeah, and then and this is also something I started just today, like this morning. And this is like island separation.
Nice.
So yeah, it's automated. So this will find, and this was actually very, like, this worked straight out of the box.
From Sci-Fi.
Yeah, this is like from the chat, but same library.
Okay.
So what this does is it just finds disconnected islands and color maps them. And I haven't found a use for this specifically yet, like, because I just did it this morning. But then what I actually wanted to achieve from this is the automated starting point. So what I would do before is that I had to go here and manually place, every point. But then what if I change textures? Like, what if I actually just play with the internal shapes? Or what if I want to replace it? I have to like delete everything every time and then fucking, do it again. And it's not very convenient. And I wanted like a way to just have, and also sometimes not all of the shapes would actually be triggered, because maybe I missed like a disconnected island, right? So the growth wouldn't happen there. So I've come up with this script using the chat again, obviously, to find each island using the same. It's basically this script with an addition. Instead of outputting this, just choose a random point on every one of these islands. Yeah, exactly. And just take like a few pixels and paint them white. And then I use that as the starting points. Is it this? No, it's not this. I did before. Yeah, this one. And then, oh, sorry. And then you can see that, oh yeah.
And I think you
Well,
pulled the
it
wrong
still
one.
needs a bit,
No, you pulled the wrong one. It's the one above it.
oh yeah, you're absolutely right. But also it might need like a bit of a tune, you know? Oh yeah,
There you go.
there it is.
Sick.
Yeah.
So just out of interest, and this is super cool, Imri. Like, thank you for sharing this. It's very exciting to see it released. Could you change the bitmap to something else, and we could get like another example of what this looks like? A
Yeah, so
pixel map,
there's
let's say, from a
the
stage or
default.
something.
So from a stage, I wouldn't do that just now, although this is from a stage file. I actually have, you know what, I actually have this
Like an
happening
edge
from Mushroom
detect or
Valley.
something.
Yeah. So now I actually have to, I think I have to reset something. Oh no, it's fine.
Okay. Okay.
This is very low res. Oh yeah,
Wow.
here we go.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
So this is low. This is super low res because something's like
Not needs to be
yeah,
cached or
something's
something.
something's. I think that was intentional, but I used a fit somewhere. Oh yeah, maybe it's this one. What's that? Let's try upresing it 4 times. Let's say. Okay, yeah, that's better. Even once more, 8 times. Okay,
Nice.
yeah. So yeah, let's try it. Let's try it on this way.
Wow. Nice. Yeah. Look at that. It's fucking sick.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Super sick.
Actually, it wasn't actually in the actual festival. I didn't have the auto. I didn't have what I just
Auto
have now.
islands.
So
Yeah, but it works really well
yeah,
because it
so
like just draws all
yeah,
the islands for you. It's great.
yeah. Like when you asked it, I was like a bit wary. I was like, actually, it didn't work that well in the festival, but actually now it's fucking great.
Yeah, it's great. Super cool.
Cool,
Super excited to see where this tool is going to go.
nice.
And you'll have to follow Imri on his socials to see him in doing it in action and making it better and better and releasing it. Yeah, I mean, was there something else that you wanted to show us from the Mushroom Valley show?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't feel there's anything too special. Oh, you know what? Actually, yes. I think I want to show. I want to show the 3D moving thingies that
Yes.
that I actually. So what happened is at Nick's where you invited me to come VJ with you in Australia. You showed me your 3D flying pieces setup, and you were complaining of. You weren't complaining, but you mentioned that you wanted to move from Notch basically,
Yes. I was
and this
complaining. I
is
hate Notch.
and okay. I didn't want to throw you under the bus, you know.
No, that's okay. I'm pretty vocal about it. I hate's a
Okay.
strong word. I don't hate any software. I didn't want to use Notch, and I actually don't anymore. I use Unreal, so I moved past it. But yes, continue the
Yeah.
story. It's a good one.
Anyway, I was like, well, I think I can build this in TouchDesigner, and somehow during the set, like during the festival, I actually built it, and well, it wasn't perfect, but I kept like perfecting it, and it's still not perfect, but I want to show you
The
how it
current
looks
version.
like today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So this is actually from the same stage. It's the center of that stage. It's currently just looping on this certain I don't know how to
Nice.
call it, like motion coordinates.
Nice.
Um,
I love it.
yeah, so they're spinning. They have lights on them. They've got a nice material, and then at some point they fly towards you. Um,
Sick.
but how it works is, so I'll start with. So it looks like this from afar,
Ooh, nice.
but
Beautiful.
yeah, this will become more organized, and I might release that as well at some point. But basically, this controls the motion. This controls the materials. This is a little bit of data managing, and then basically you do most of your work here, which is actually it's very manual. It's quite a manual labor at this point, a little bit. So you have to go over here and put all your files in an
Refresh them.
FBX format. Yeah. It still has all the namings from Nix. I know. Yeah, it's a bit
So
stuck,
you
but
put, sorry, you put your
you
pieces in that folder, in that container.
guys, yeah, it's a bit glitchy right now, but yeah, you basically you have to name them in a certain convention, and I'll fix that as well. I want to make it like auto name. Um, you put all your files in one place, and then you click a few things, and then basically you have this running. Um, it kind of runs out of the box at that point. You just have to make the objects in Blender usually. So if I work with Blake, for example, I would take his vectors files that he's already making, and I'll just turn that into 3D, extrude it a little bit, batch export, and then bring it here. And sometimes I would even feed textures, the same thing as we were doing,
Right. You
if
feed
you
it the pixel
remember.
map.
Like, yeah, you feed it the pixel map. This is coming from the other project like this
Nice.
is coming in through Siphon Spout, whatever.
Nice.
Um, yeah, there's another few animations happening. This is all like
How does the
pixel point cloud
movement work?
computations. Yeah, so it's all point clouds, like texture based point clouds. So I imagine that once pops come out to the stable version of TouchDesigner, the new operator family, then I'll probably
Use that.
remake it in pops, just because it makes more sense. But I'm happy that I did all of this because I would have a better understanding of pops once they come out. You know what? I actually, when I was in Israel, I actually went to UV's place, Mini
Mini
UV,
UV.
which you've interviewed like a while ago. Because we're friends from Israel, and the moment I arrived at his place, he suddenly like looked at his phone, and he got the email that he got access to the alpha version of Fashion Designer with Pops, and he went like, "Oh my god, I can't believe this! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!" He was so excited. It was like amazing, and then we just dove in for like, I don't know, like maybe 4 or 5 hours, just like exploring the new thing. Um, that was really fun. Just like I had a really good window into his head, um, which was hectic, by the way.
He's
Like
got a crazy mind.
he's got a crazy mind. He's like a
Yeah.
giant rolling snowball of
Of
little
ideas and
ideas
stuff.
and thoughts, and like
Yeah.
it was like
Very
amazing.
high
And I was just
level.
like there by his side. Yeah, it's just like throwing insights of like from the side, from my perspective of like. But I felt like the best sidekick ever.
Yeah, the pops is very exciting. I played with it a little bit. It's a little bit like, it's not like anything else in Touch Designer, and like the attribute world is very unique. It's very unique to like Houdini and kind of this kind of programmatic procedural kind of ideology. So it's kind of different than what I was expecting, to be honest. I was expecting something a little bit more TouchDesignery. But I know that it's like super early, and this is what they're waiting for. They're waiting for feedback from us to like be like, can you make it more like this? Can you steer it in this direction? So I'm just waiting to have like a good few days of freedom and not having to work or do other things to really like jump into it deeper. Because I also like when I got the email, I also like jumped right into it, and I was like, whoa, wait a second, I don't understand any of this. Like, I don't understand how this is doing this and how this is doing that. And then it's like, okay, well, I kind of understand that you can math between these two things, and it's like, but then I couldn't really figure it out, so I got a little bit frustrated. But I have been following like in the forums. There's like a special forum, and people are like kind of posting there, and it does seem like there's going to be a lot of changes to it. But I mean, it's just super exciting. Like, just, you know, TouchDesigner is so important to so many people, and so many people like, you know, base their lives and careers and expression around it, that anything new and innovative inside of it is just extremely exciting. And it's clear that they put in tons of time into making something that's like unique and new. You know, it feels like a new generation of TouchDesigner, like the next evolution of TouchDesigner. So I'm all on board. I just need the time to like really wrap my head around it, because it wasn't intuitive when I first tried to play with it, which I think is kind of the point, right? That it's something new and evolutionary. It's not going to be intuitive.
That's right.
But TouchDesign, like, you know, derivative team, they are so good at making things intuitive. They're so good at like taking high level concepts, like just like points, right? Like, you know, or like textures to points, like making a high level concept into something that's digestible and you know, more intuitive. So I'm excited to see where it goes.
Also, I think the fact that it's an exciting new feature doesn't mean you have to be the pioneer.
Yes.
You know, like, it's okay to wait for like other people to explore, and then stable exploration of others and learn from that.
Totally. Can you just explain to me a little bit more how the positioning works, because it's kind of piquing my interest of like, how do I use the positional data outside of TouchDesigner? Maybe like send the positional data to OSC or something like that, like just in some way, like, because it looks like it's some sort of procedural animation, the way the pieces are flying back and forth, right? So can you just show a little bit of how that procedural animation is working?
I'll just say that I'm going to improvise as I go, because I don't necessarily remember how everything works, but I can understand.
That's fine.
So I think the biggest challenge that I had in the beginning was actually, how do I get the initial positions of where the objects should be? You know, because you get an import of an object, and it usually is just like, it lives on its origin, right? So I found that if you import an FBX, the geometry within the FBX import comp would be 0, like in the 0, 0. But because the FBX comp in TouchDesigner, the wrapper around it, no, I mean, the stop actually comes, I can show you. The stop actually is 0. Okay, so I'll go. Yeah, so I'll go. I can actually go into one of the replicants, maybe. Okay. So this is one of the replicants.
Origin 0, 0.
So it's the geometry itself is actually in 0, but you can have the pieces in 0. So what I do is I go to the FBX and I reference their inherent positions, because the FBX importer remembers where they were in Blender, in the world. Right. So the geometry in the stop lives in the 0, 0, like in the position of 0, 0, 0, 0. But the FBX wrapper remembers the position in the 3D world in Blender. So I take that from like I go there. This is what this does. It goes there for every, like, this is like 1, 2, 3, X, Y, Z. Yeah, evaluates these values and then applies them here in the geometry where I apply my materials, and I apply a new position. So like actually this goes out to the beginning of the network. So these values all consolidate, right? They consolidate here from that to chop, from chop to texture. And then this texture is referenced in the beginning of this network here. And this is called initial positions. So yeah, this is where the pieces should be. And then I have like a little bit of adjustment if I need to. I guess this is because of the import. Yeah, just moving the whole thing without
scaling.
Yeah. And then that goes into this composition, which adds the new positions, adds the, how do I call it, like the modification for the positions to the original positions. So the method is you have your original positions and then you're adding values to their XYZ values.
And then you're sending that back into the geometries?
Yes. And then the result of this, or like maybe it ends here. It ends up in this new positions section where it goes back to chops so that they can be more easily referenced. Readable and just like referenced by each replicant. So each replicant has these transform custom parameters that are applied. So what I do here basically in each replicant for each piece, for each object, I'm grabbing the initial positions and I'm setting a new position. And this is what happens in each replicant, and applying a material. I can also poly reduce if I need to. If for some reason I have a need for it, I'll do it in the main master component.
What is the resolution of that texture? Is it going to just be as many pieces that you have, basically?
Yes.
Times
exactly.
9, I guess, for position and rotation and scale.
Yeah. Scale. Yeah, it's times 9, but they actually have separate textures. So
position, rotation, and scale.
Yeah. So yeah, this will have in this case 103 by 1 because that's the amount of pieces, and the scale will have the same resolution. I've also made this effector setup, which I couldn't get it to work actually in Mushroom Valley. I don't really remember why. But this was actually pretty interesting because I had to figure out how to make a force. Basically, it's a force in a particle system, right? Because it relies on distance, right? Because I'm giving like a position, which, for example, I will set a position with my mouse. I'll just get this closer. So I'm just getting a position on a screen, right? Getting the UV values, and then I will turn that into a pixel, like into one color. So this is a constant top that encodes this position basically in the color parameter, and then I compare that. It's being compared with a difference, I think. Yeah, difference. It's being compared to the actual positions, not the initial, the actual positions.
So like where they are right now.
Yeah, where they are right now, and that creates a field. And this field is actually the distance, right, between my effector basically,
right, and the position.
and the pieces, and that's encoded in these pixels. So we can actually, like, if we have a look in the values.
Can you right click and do as points, just out of interest?
Yeah. Let's have a look. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, you can. You can kind of see it's like almost the position. You can make the points bigger as well, but oh wow, cool! Look at that, interesting. Very cool. Man,
Yeah,
TouchDesigner
but
is
these are
so
actually the,
fucking cool. It's just like the
yeah,
coolest program ever.
I know.
So is that so?
Yeah, and then
That's like being affected by your mouse position. Is that correct, or is it like
yeah,
it's supposed to?
when it does work,
Yeah,
it's supposed to, yeah. When it does work, so you can see like when I move my mouse around, you can see how the color in that how
affected
that color
mouse.
changes,
Hmm.
and you can also see the field changing. I can make it that bigger so we can see.
Oh yeah.
So like every pixel in the texture gets compared to the
Mouse
position,
position.
to the encoded, yeah, my color encoded position of the mouse.
Hmm.
Um, and there's also like a fall off. Actually, there's actually a fall off uh, capability where like with using a ramp, I can actually decide how far, like what's the fall off of the effect of my effector,
Mm.
right? So I can like design that force. Like let's say it's stronger near the core, it's weaker near the edges, or it can be the opposite. Yeah, this is it's not really finished. This entire thing isn't finished, but walking you through it as I go.
It's super cool.
Yeah,
I love this.
and then there's some basic lights happening around. Yeah,
I
sorry,
want
what?
to jump more into it at some point with you offline. Obviously not now, but it's just piquing my interest because of the stuff that I'm doing in Unreal with the pieces, and I've been heavily focused on like forces, like physics forces, but
Mhm.
because I'm using physics forces, there's not much symmetry or control of patterns. It's a lot more like organic, which is definitely cool, and
Mhm.
that's kind of what I like. But I've been trying to figure out a way in Unreal to make things more like, how do I get a ramp to push things outwards, or how do I get like the pieces to go in a very specific position or whatever. This seems like it might be an interesting solution because a section I can either whatever, we don't have to talk about it now. I'm just like thinking of some cool ideas of ways to get the data into Unreal and feed it into the pieces.
Yeah, well, I would really love to jam on this with you.
Yeah, yeah, we will. But first, we will continue this talk. So, was there anything else that you wanted to show us inside of this kind of world of your kind of exploration and touch designer work?
Well, I could tell about the recent thing that I did. Actually, so I just went to visit Israel just now, and I've actually worked on
חוצות
a
היוצר.
big project. חוצות היוצר.
חוצות
If you know it, you
היוצר.
know it. And I've actually I've
Wait,
worked with a
חוצות
really good
היוצר,
friend of
we have to say
mine.
what it is. חוצות היוצר is like, it's basically one of the biggest art events in Israel. It's very mainstream art. It's very like commercial, not commercial, but it's just like wide public art. It's open to the public. It's, if I'm not mistaken, government funded. It's or at least
Yeah.
municipality funded. It's like it's very focused on like widespread art, and it has basically millions of people come to it, if not hundreds of thousands of people come to it. So having an installation there is a huge honor, and definitely like a stamp of like success. So we should be very proud of that.
Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, we did two installations there. It was me and a partner of mine, which is his name is Dor Teicher, aka Ledion Studio, and he works around Israel. He's really talented with electronics and especially LED installations. He makes his own hardware, and
Wow.
he used to make custom software. But then I guess a bit over 2 years ago, um, he started using TouchDesigner to create like real-time shows.
Nice.
And I'm proud to say that I've helped him along with it, and I got to learn so much from it because yeah. And so one of the installations, actually included over 60,000 LEDs, all real-time controlled with TouchDesigner, with custom hardware, like custom drivers, an entirely custom-made system, which is very technically impressive. And I have to say, like the thing, I think he would identify with what I'm saying as well. That the internal part was at least as impressive as the result for us. You know, as tech designers, you know, it's like we've been so proud of it, but then we had to cover it, obviously, because like
Right.
it's not presentable, like all the cables and all the shit. But anyway, so I could show that. We
Yeah.
also made another installation incorporating string diffusion by Dot Simulate. Like we
Yeah.
used definitely used that tool to a wide extent in the other installation, and I think that was like quite a successful one. You see anything? So this was supposed to be. I mean, this is installation. That's yeah. It's what can I say about this? It's like a willow tree, basically. It's a willow tree made of LEDs. Um, I'll show you this one. Um, and it was also, this is actually from the build stage, but this was it had like 3 cameras surrounding it. Yeah, that was really interesting because we had to take on everything from designing how it's going to look like, and then we took part in the manufacturing actually, both like everything, like obviously hardware, LEDs, controllers, but also we had to do a lot of, like we did a lot of 3D printing, CNC, like everything to make the structural part happen. We even went to the factory where they made all the, like the actual structure, the metal structure. So that was like an interesting one because it was really an all-rounder, you know, like we had to really get into facilitating the entire project. Um, this is like a bit of footage from the studio. I hope it will load.
Such a big
3D
project.
printed cases.
Was it
Yeah.
you know, what's it like working on such a big project like this? Is it kind of like, is there a lot of um I know Adil Daisha. I know him. I didn't know
Yeah.
his name before, but I've met him before. Yeah, for sure. What is it
That's
like, you know,
that's good.
having to manage everything and kind of put everything together and keep everything up to date and you know, kind of, you know, walk us through that process?
Well, it's coming like it's a lot of talking around with a lot of different people. And for me, it was quite a shock because I only just landed from Australia, and the rhythm here is way different. So I just arrived to this hectic storm of having to work with city municipality, um, having to talk with dozens of different people all the time, keeping everyone up to date, um, and like honestly, like working way more, like way harder and way more hours than I'm used to over here, just
Right.
because I felt like I kind of forgot how it is in Israel, you know, how hectic and how fast paced everything is
Yeah.
compared to here. Like here, just you know, look at my house. Like it's made of tin. I basically live almost outside, you know. It's very chill. Even when you like when you do something and you're giving it your all, if you did that in Israel, you'd have to do it like 3 times faster. Um,
At
so
least.
yeah, so Taher actually Um, uh, yeah, he did a lot of that for us. So he took on a lot of that weight to him, like coordinating between different people, keeping everyone happy. Um, of course, I help, but yeah, this is to his credit for sure. Um, yeah, and speaking of intenseness and Israel, like I'm actually curious to hear about your experience. I know you didn't come for work this time, but um, yeah, if you wanted to share um, how was your visit to Israel, and I could share as well, because we're both from there. Like you've been away way longer, and you've built like a life. I'm maybe might be in an earlier stage of that. Like I don't know where I'm going to end up, but we kind of share that similarity. Um, and we both went there this summer after like quite the things have happened.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to talk about Israel. I want to just put a pin in the section of the set, and kind of like just thank you for sharing all that knowledge and information on TouchDesigner and your projects and everything. Um, and yeah, we could definitely jump into Israel. I mean, I have a very, to say the least, opinionated view of Israel. Um, I have always kind of had an opinionated view on Israel. That's kind of why I left in 2020, 2020, sounds like 2000. Um, I left before all this shit was going on, but even back then there was crazy shit going on. So it's like just kind of always shit going on. Not to downplay what's going on now, but it's kind of people forget that this is the reality of Israel. It's all good to say free Palestine, but like, where were you for the past 78 years? So I find like
Mm.
the whole concept of Israel is very polarizing for people. I think that the current situation is very upsetting and very painful for so many people. Obviously, people that are being killed and blown up or stabbed and shot and whatever is is something that I can't even comprehend and don't want to really think about that much because it's too painful to think about. And that's kind of why I left Israel, to not be in that environment and not be around it.
Mhm.
Obviously, October 7th hit me very personally because I lost a lot of friends at the Nova party. And, my initial thoughts and feelings were kind of like somebody has to pay, somebody has to be held accountable. But very quickly that turned to, um, you know, very quickly it turned to understanding, or not understanding because I always understood it, but it very quickly turned to reflection of myself of like, why am I feeling that when I know that the actual reality is this is a response to something. Obviously, it's not a response that I agree with, and I don't think it's the right response. Obviously, my friends died, and many of my other friends are now in massive, probably forever, post-traumatic stress disorder from going through what they went through. You know, but it was just kind of like another growth or evolution with my feelings towards Israel of just like, this is kind of like, this has always been the response. It's always been this kind of aggressive, intense, loss of life response. Um, and and yeah, I hadn't gone back to Israel for a while since that happened, and I haven't been to Israel since last year. I actually was in Israel in September of last year, in September of 2023, right before, like a month or two before the whole thing went off. Um, And it was intense going back, to be honest. We almost didn't go back because we were going to go back like right when there was like all the, things from Iran and all the, media was like, there's going to be a World War III and Iran's going to attack and et cetera, et cetera. And, and it kind of, we got swallowed up in it. Like in retrospect, this is like always what happens, it's always like, there's going to be a war. There's going to be a war. People are going to die. People are going to die. And there's going to be bombs. And it's like, well, okay, that's what happens all the time. It's either going to be that or it's going to be not that. But they're both the same thing, really, of like a dangerous place that's pretty intense. But yeah, we weren't going to go back, and the only reason we went back was because my mother got remarried. She got married for a second time, and I really wanted to be there for her because I love my mother, and she's such an amazing person, and really, I have my whole life to thank her for, and I think that sometimes you have to really you have to do things for your parents that you don't always want to. And like this time was very difficult because I have a child, and it was kind of like, am I putting my child into danger? Am I bringing him to a bad place that could be dangerous for him? So it was a very conflicting feeling, and I almost just went by myself. But then I'm like, well, what if I get stuck there and then I'm not with my kid? And actually, it's very interesting because speaking of women's intuition, my wife was kind of having these dreams and intuitions of like, we can't go, something bad's going to happen, we shouldn't go. And then 24 hours, we had to, you have to cancel the flight 24 hours before you go, otherwise you have to pay for it. And we were kind of like, well, we didn't cancel the flight, so like, I guess we're going to go. And then she was like, well, I still don't think we should. And then that, the night before we kind of went to sleep, it's like, okay, let's wake up in the morning and we'll decide in the morning. And if we have to pay for the flight, whatever, it's just a little bit of money. It's not the end of the world. Our lives are more important. And that night, my mother called me, and she, we had a whole discussion, and she kind of said to me, like, if you don't come, I understand, and I really respect it. But I could hear in her voice that she was like, going to cry, we're not going to come. And then we woke up in the morning, and my wife was kind of like, she went to meditate, and she went to like really collect herself and really put a lot of thought into it, and like a lot of effort into like kind of coming to this understanding of what her intuition is telling her. And we decided to go. And, it was a really good decision that we went. Thank God nothing bad happened in Israel. Well, tons of bad shit happened, but nothing bad happened to us, thank God. Nothing was like actualizing in our vicinity or on top of us. And it was beautiful. My mother had a great wedding, and she was so happy we came, and everybody was really happy. But it was very difficult. It was difficult seeing friends. It was difficult, talking with people about the situation. It was difficult to see kind of the indoctrination and mass hypnosis that, everybody's going through, even the people that are like super against the government and super against the war and, activists against the situation. Is just, there's just so much bad, for lack of a better word, in the air. Like all the billboards and all the fucking government sponsored marketing. It's like, it's so manipulative, and it's so like a veil, This is so much more deeper than I wanted to get into the conversation, by the way. You got me, Imri, you got me. Because you opened it up to ask me the question.
Because I knew you would have a lot to say, and I actually want to hear what you have to say, because we didn't get to talk about that when we were there.
It's true. Well, that's kind of something that I realized. We kind of saw each other like the last day that I was there, or like a day before I left, and I kind of realized, like, after being there for I was only there for 10 days, but after kind of like I didn't have any blow-ups with any friends or any like really intense conversations, and my mother made me and all my family promise that we wouldn't talk about politics at the wedding, which was like the best thing ever because everybody was super happy and we didn't talk about anything. But then with some friends, like we got into like some heavy discussions, and I kind of realized that like all I'm doing is like shitting on their country and shitting on where they live. And like,
Yeah.
regardless of, I know the truth, or at least I want to think I know the truth of the situation, and I think that they're wrong, and I think that they're being manipulated and indoctrinated. It doesn't help if I'm like, your place sucks, while I'm there visiting them, and they live there.
It
They're
just
stuck
pushes
there.
them away.
It just pushes
It
them
just pushes them
away.
away.
It makes them feel bad. I don't want to make them feel bad. I don't want to make my friends and my family feel bad. That's not what I want to do. I want to make them be open and like see the reality, but that's not the way to do it. So, it kind of made me realize, I kind of realized that after being there for that long, that it's like, I'm not going to talk about this while I'm here to my friends and family that are here, because it's like, it's almost disrespectful. And I know that's like such a weird word to use when like people are dying, but like, I'm not going to stop the war. Like, I'm not an activist. I'm not a politician. Nothing I say or do or think will stop the war. I don't even believe that like you can manifest the war to stop. I think it's way bigger than that. So me like telling my Israeli friends like, this and this and this and this and this and this, and you should do this and this and this, is pointless, because it's just making them feel worse than they already feel. And if they don't feel bad, then they're definitely not going to feel bad about because I'm saying it. So yeah, I mean, that kind of was like a realization that I had when I was there. And at the same time, it's also a realization of kind of like, it almost made me feel worse in a way, because it's like, there's nothing that I can do or say that's going to change anything, which was a real bummer. But then at the same time, I had some really nice discussions with my brother and his friends, and he has like a lot of friends in Tel Aviv that like a lot of young people like in their early 20s that are kind of like have had enough of the situation. Some of them are like leaving Israel completely, which I thought was really good. I think that that's like the best way to protest, or the best way to stand up to the problem, is to leave and like, not be affected by it, and like go and do something else outside of it. And then, things always calm down. Things always change. There's always like a change coming. And then maybe you come back with a new perspective, or maybe you help your friends and family understand some with a new perspective. Like, I think that that's like a really good thing. And then there's other people that were like really, protesting every day and like really actively trying to be pro doing something. So that kind of gave me some hope, of like, okay, there's a big group of people that are like very powerful, like in their mind and will, that don't want this to happen, that want this to end. And yeah, I honestly, since I've been back, I've had to deal with so many other things that I really I'm checking the news a lot and seeing what's going on because of there's like, obviously this is being recorded, mid end September, after the whole Lebanon thing. And it's like, what the fuck was that? And like, it's like so crazy and insane that like all this stuff is going on. But I try to remove myself from it. I try to not think about it. Maybe that's selfish. Maybe that's wrong. I don't know. But I do know that the more I remove myself from it, the more I take myself away from it, the better I feel. So, I think that that's good. Like, again, nothing I do or say or think is going to stop the suffering. And I also think that it's not really fair to just focus on like that suffering while there's so much suffering in the world every day, all over the place. Like,
It's not about what's fair though. It's about this like feeling of, I think if you go to protest every day, or you go a lot, or you're trying to be active, it's not about who's suffering more or less. It's not about this competition. It's just like, people are just like running out of like, if I don't do this, then
what?
What? Like, people just, there's like nothing left.
Totally.
Like,
Totally.
because if it stays this way, there's no future anyway. So like, I'm actually out of options, have to go out to the street and fucking try and make a difference. I think that's the mindset that I was getting.
Yeah.
When talking to people who are actively trying to make a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your experience there? How did you how did you feel like when you were there? You know, I also just want to say one more thing before you share, but like,
Mhm.
while I was in Israel, there is like, I love my family and my friends. Like, it was so nice to see my friends that I haven't seen for a while and like spend time with my family. It was so special. You know, the food is delicious. You can't help it. You know, the ocean is nice, and this is the first time like that I visited Israel that I didn't go back to where I used to live in the north because of obvious reasons. Um, and I almost regret it because I like that's the part of Israel that I love the most. You know, the place that I used to live in the north, and like just that part of Israel is just so beautiful. Um, and I feel like I like this is weird to say, but like by not going, I realized how much I love that place and miss that place. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I'm just kind of realizing
Yeah.
this now talking to you, but like, because I didn't go there, I'm thinking like, oh, the last time that I went there, it was so great that like that place is so special in my heart. Um, you know, it's like there's something special about that place, about that, you know, Israel in general, but like that place in the north, and like a part of me is like, you know, I'm a extreme anti-Zionist. I'm, you know, I don't like pro-Palestine is not even like a thing to me. Like that doesn't even that's just like that's like what's cool to say these days. You know, I'm pro-Palestine. Like
That's
it's
a
not.
that's a distraction
It's a distraction, exactly.
from this like side thing, like this, pro that. It's just a distraction from the actual thing.
100%. So like you know, I don't
Yeah.
think in those terms, and I don't even think like in terms of like this solution, this solution. I think it's all bullshit. You know, I just think that obvious things like the end of suffering, end of war, the end of, you know, you can call it apartheid, you can call it occupation, whatever you want to call it, just like the end of these people going through this suffering. Um, so like, but I don't think that that equals no Israel. You know what I mean? I think that through parts of my life, I did think that. I did think that that's like the only way to end Zionism is to end Israel. But like the more that I understand it, the more that I listen to my Israeli friends and family, the more that I look at the history and the current politics, the more that I realize that A, that's not possible. It's just not going to happen because of like the Western world and the way that the reality is, the way that, you know, the Western world works. You know, whether you like it or not, that's just the reality of it. You can't you can't just change the reality of the situation unless you just start nuking everybody. That's just like not a good solution. So, you know, I just wish and I hope that that those things can exist together in a way that doesn't cause pain and suffering. And unfairness is not the right word, but like I can't think of a better word. That it's just so unfair that these people get something and these people get something and these people don't get something and these people don't get something. It just doesn't. It's not right. You know, like just as a simple thing, it's not right. It's not fair. Like let's start there. Like why? You know, I don't want to get into politics, but it's like why is there no right of return for Palestinians? You know, that's just like a simple thing. You know, like but yeah. Yeah. What was your experience when you went back? Like, how did you feel?
Thanks for sharing that. I don't think I've heard you elaborate this much ever. um, so my head doesn't go that far usually. Like I was trying to keep myself um safe, like in my like I'll start by saying like um one of the like the one settlement that was hurt the most in October and Iroz. So that's where my mother grew up, and
Oh wow.
my yeah. So my grandparents and my cousin and her husband was there, and they all survived thanks to
Thank
my
God.
cousin and her husband. Like they really saved them from like their burning house, and um So that's like a um, this is my close part to it, you know, like the closest like family, and like they lost their kibbutz, they lost a lot of people, they lost their home that they've built for 60 years. Um, like I didn't even get to I did much in terms of you know, like what's actually happening, why is this happening? Like I didn't get to this point of politics in my own head, like, and I feel like coming from Australia, like coming from afar and experiencing this entire terrible thing full of pain from afar, but also still being a part of it, I felt like what I need to bring home was like light and hope, and like to bring everything that because it's really hard. And I can see that like when I, you know, when I spoke with my parents, when I spoke with friends, when I spoke with my grandmother, um, everything is just so heavy. And sometimes I think just bringing in a bit of light to like bringing in a little bit of the life that I'm having here, um, even if it's not like, because I think like my leniency would be to I want to be a part of something because I'm part of this place and I've been away, and I felt like it's not okay that I'm not a part of this thing that everyone's going through, and that maybe I'm needed, and you know, and I'm not there. But I just realized that like it's okay to not be there, but if I'm there, or if I can give some of this, like give someone some comfort by just sharing the light, it's a lot. It does a lot.
Totally.
It helps you out of this of the hole you're in. Um, I'm like you were talking about populations and like, you know, people's rights, and but I didn't even I don't want to go there at this point. Like my experience was like more on the personal level with people, and the fact that also I don't really know if Israel was always this intense and I just forgot, or it just became over intense. Like I really don't know, because I haven't been there in almost 2 years, and I came back, and it's the first time I've been away for so long. So um yeah, and I think the moment I landed back in Australia, um I instantly felt space. Like I felt like the air is just like whoa, and it just made me realize how compressed the energy is back home. And
It's crazy. It's
I don't
crazy
know,
how it's so
it's
visceral.
really crazy.
It's visceral, you know. You just reminded me about something, by the way. I think maybe like 6 months ago, like halfway through this whole thing, I called you. We spoke about, I don't remember what we were speaking about, but I told you I'm having a really hard time with my family, like talking to them about Israel. And I think I even spoke to you about my mom or something like that. And you told me like what you just said right now of this, like, they're going
Yeah,
through a really hard time.
I
They're in the
remember.
shit. Like you're in America. Like you're loving life. You're having a good time. They're in the shit. Like just be there for them. And like, you
Yeah,
know, when you told that to me, it was like a light bulb went off in my head. Like, oh fuck, I'm such an idiot. Like all I'm doing is arguing with my family all day about politics and about how, you know, their reality is wrong and I'm right and they're wrong and their news is wrong. And it's like, what the hell? Like they're going through all this shit right now. All I got to do is just be like, can I help you? Can I listen? Am I there for you? You know? And like, and you said, and it was so simple the way you said it that it just really lit off in my head of just like, just be there for them. Um, you know, and I think that like you're so right again of like, what's the point of even getting into politics and stuff like that? Because there's nothing, it's not relevant. Like what is relevant is people that I love are going through something hard. Like I can't even,
Exactly.
Politics, people being, all the bad things that are happening in Gaza, like there's nothing that I could do there. So like, but what I can do is help the people that are going through a really hard time that I love. So it's like, that's so much more powerful than like, and I'm not, again, people protesting, all that kind of stuff. I personally don't think that activism.
This is for you.
Yeah, but exactly. Like for me, I can help the people that are close to me. And that's really potent. And I think that's like a lesson for everybody, right? Like making a post on Facebook or going to a rally is one thing. Is it bad or good? It doesn't matter. But maybe like knocking on your neighbor's door to see if they're okay, or calling your parents to see if they're okay, or like in our case, calling our families that are going through a really hard time is much more important, is much more powerful, and it kind of like leads back to like my spiel when it comes to activism is like, I feel like it's one thing to spend all your energy going out to a protest. It's another thing to spend the same energy to make something beautiful in your community, to help people around you, to be a good father, to be a good husband, to be a good son. Like, take the energy of protesting or being an activist and do the thing that's small, the small thing that's around you. And I think that's what makes a better world.
It doesn't have to be one of them.
Well, no, it doesn't have to be either or. It doesn't have to be either or. I'm not saying either or. I'm just saying
there's place for all of them. Yeah.
There's place for all of them. I'm just saying, like, when I'm met with that question of like, should I go be an activist or not? I'm met with the question a lot. When I left Israel, that was the question that I asked myself a lot. And the answer that I got for myself was, I don't want to do that. I want to do something close to me, because it feels like that thing is more powerful to me. Like, I get a much more response and reflection, back to our beginning of the conversation, when I do something good in my vicinity. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and it's not like I'm a great person. Like, I don't like go and like volunteer, even though I try to. And I do actively try to seek out these type of things. But yeah, I just feel like for me, that's like much more powerful.
Yeah.
I feel like this is an interesting topic also to talk to you about, because, in Israel, for people that don't know, obviously this is like something that most people know, but there's a mandatory military service. And usually, like, this is like the common thing in Israel when you meet Israelis, like, oh, where do you go to the army? Oh, you talk about the army, you talk stories, you swap stories, blah, blah, blah. And like, there's two sides of it. There's like the side of like, oh yeah, blah, 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 blah. And then there's the side of like, oh yeah, the army sucked and I hated it, and how hard was it for you? And it sucked for me and it sucked for you. Yeah, let's talk about how much it sucks. And, but then there's also people like yourself who were conscientious objectors who declined military service. And it's a very special and powerful thing to do that. Now it's like, in the news because of the war. And now it's like, oh, it's a wartime, you're not going to go to the army. But really, the military is like the mass indoctrination of Israel. And like, that's where it starts. It starts obviously in your school, and Zionism is like the root cause of everything. But really where they get you, where they really like make you into a soldier, mentally, spiritually, physically, is in the, and I mean a soldier of like a nationalist soldier, not like a soldier shooting somebody, but a soldier like, I'm going to be for the government no matter what they do, or I'm going to be pro-Israel no matter what it does, or I'm going to say that you're anti-Semitic if you say something negative about Israel. It starts in the army. And, a huge amount of the population, I don't know what the numbers are. I think it's probably somewhere around 70%, maybe more, maybe less, probably around 70%, maybe without the ultra-Orthodox people, it's a little bit less, but let's say 70%, a good 3/4 of the population at the age of 18, between the age of 18 and 20, go to the army. So you're talking about, and this is men and women equally. And it's not only, you don't only get indoctrinated if you get a gun. You can just be as indoctrinated if you're a cook or a chef in the army, because you're in that environment. You're in the environment, you're in a hierarchy, you're in a system that's made to break you and made to make you into a soldier, into a yes man, a yes sir person. So you're talking about a whole population that goes through this kind of experience, and it creates robots, it creates sheep, it creates soldiers for So people that don't go to the army, that decline the military service, I always admire them, and I also look at them as almost like an alien, like in a good way, like somebody who's outside of this indoctrination. Yeah, like how did you at 18 understand that you didn't want to go to the army? How do you view people that go to the army? What do you think about, when you have these conversations with people? You know how lucky you are, but what is it like for you?
I think, look, I've known from since I was 15 or 16. I started feeling like I didn't want to go to the army because I had older friends. I always had older friends since I was 12. So when I was in high school, a lot of my friends were actually close to finishing their military service, and I had a good insight on what it was. And also I had some friends who didn't go. So I had many examples of things that are possible to do. And I knew the main reason that I didn't want to go is because I didn't want to be in that environment. Like I didn't want to be controlled. I wanted to be free, and I knew that I knew that I would get into trouble, or that I would make trouble.
That's so funny.
No, I knew it, and also I was honest about it. I knew that no matter what, even if I try my best, this is not going to work between us because, and you can see examples in my high school days and whatever. It never really worked. Me and outer external authority, and that's the most extreme external authority that I could, in my close vicinity that I could, yeah. And the fact that you have to, right? So if you don't want to, you have to make a good effort. And, it's not very, it's not straightforward. You have to go like that, you have to do special things and to convince them that you are more trouble than you're worth, right? Because otherwise, yeah. So I managed to do that. But I still felt like I wanted to do something. I did want some kind of something to do. I felt like I wanted to do something for somebody else, and I also wanted it for myself. Also, I think a lot of people actually really find a good place for themselves in the military, and I think there are a lot of good things that can be gained by being in such a harsh place.
Yeah, for sure.
Environment. I'm still happy I didn't go. But yeah, I do see a lot of good things that can come out of it in your personal development. I mean,
Well,
I'm not talking about participating in a larger machine and what it's doing and all this. I'm literally talking about your personal life.
Yeah, I think that there's,
yeah.
Just to touch on that for a second, because it's a really good conversation. Doing Shivut Leumi or national service, I think is something that every country should pick up for their young people, because first of all, when you go to university right out of high school, it's the worst thing because you just don't know who you are, and you haven't had that moment of freedom from high school to university to really explore. And more than that, national service teaches you about yourself. You learn to help other people. You learn to grow. You learn to get responsibility, something that you don't always get. And yes, the army teaches you all that stuff. I've come to realize, it's the classic thing of oh, the army made me a powerful person. The army made me strong-willed and made me reach my goals and everything. It's no. I mean, yes, But those things, like there's people in other places in the world that don't go to the army that have the same traits. So where did they get them from? They got it from life, from just living and doing things. So yes, the army can teach you these things, but it's done in I think, in a negative way. But there is positive to that gap, that bridge between high school and like, going out to the world. And I think that national service is the solution. Like, maybe not forced, but like, let's say, just like I grew up in a settlement. So like I was indoctrinated from a very young age to go to the army, and not only to go to the army, but to be in a combat unit, because that's the way you give back. If I was indoctrinated to go to national service, that would be great. That would be much better, and then it could still be a choice, but the choice would be made because I was taught that it's a good thing to do. Like you said, it's funny because you saw your friends that were older go to the army and be like, oh, I don't want to do that. But the same thing could be done for a national service kind of thing of like, oh, I see my older brother went to national service and how great it was for him. I'm going to want to go to that too, because I do think you're right. I think that that's very important to have that moment, and definitely give back. There's something very special about that.
Even just giving, even if it's not giving back,
Giving,
just
Nice.
giving.
Giving.
If someone else, like if one of my friends learn how to be tough, and like go and like come through difficult situations and like through physical difficulties and through, strong, mental, how do you say that? Like discipline.
Like
I
pushing yourself to the edge.
Yeah. So in the same time, I've learned different things, like, how, like I've learned how to be much more sensitive and and have capacity to hold others, and how to, how to form cooperation, with like pure small humans, that, and I learned so much about human relations through just like viewing and spending time with young people, like really young, or in a certain range, and like going, yeah, and I feel like that made me really strong.
Yeah.
Because I view, strength, like personal mental strength. I think being soft is being strong.
Mm.
I think like, if like the classic appearance of a hard shell, um, is it like, for me, that doesn't reflect strength. That reflects, um, defending your weakness,
Mm.
and that is not true strength in my eyes. Like,
It's not
I
true
think
strength.
it's not true strength. Like
Mhm.
being actually strong for me, and this is what it means for me. Obviously, I'm not talking about everyone, but
Right. Of
for
course.
me, being open with your weakness
Mhm.
and feeling safe, within yourself, while you're doing that. That is strength.
Mhm. Just going back for a second to kind of our conversation, um, you know, this is I often think about like what this podcast is about and like what the point of it is, and I feel like it, it's a visual cast. It's about visuals and things like that, but I also want to be authentic because like that's important to me, and that's how I express myself through authenticity. That's how I express my art, and being Israeli is a part of who I am and a part of who you are. So that's like authentic to us. But I feel like I feel like a very important part of Israel for me is becoming a visual artist. I became a visual artist while I was in Israel. I learned to VJ while I was in Israel. My mentor was in Israel, and to be honest, the VJ scene was started while I was in Israel, or my VJ scene was started while I was in Israel. So it was it's very powerful for me. It's very meaningful for me. What was you know, I don't want to cry, but like my two good friends that died, that were murdered on October 7th, Michael and Osher
Twins.
Vaknin, the twins. Yeah, they were like, extremely influential in my career. The first party, it wasn't the first place I did VJing, but the first party that was actually like a real party, like a legit party, a cool party, one of the coolest parties that there was their party. And they they made fun of me the whole time. They were like, they were like very, very unique characters, and they were just like giving me a hard shit the whole time. Like, what is this bullshit? Like, what are you doing? This is so like lame. But then like when I turned it on and I did it, they were just like, wow, wow, the whole time. They were just like, they couldn't believe it, and they were just going crazy because I kind of had to convince them to let me do it. And the rest is history, as it were. But it was like having that opportunity and platform, was so meaningful to my life, and it really changed my life. And like the party scene in Israel is so special. I do fear that like a lot of it has been lost since October 7th, and I really pray and hope that it will come back and be rebuilt. But this is kind of like the sadness that I feel about this whole situation is like the holy place of or the authentic place of dancing and experiencing this kind of like freedom and expression has been like tainted very difficultly, very, very badly. And I was very nervous to go traveling in Europe this summer because I was nervous about like how I would feel to be on a dance floor. I'm happy to say that like it only felt good. I didn't feel any negativity. I didn't feel any bad. I felt good. I didn't feel like that. I didn't feel like it reached there. I didn't feel like the evil and the bad and the taintedness reached those dance floors. This is my perspective. I'm sure other people have different opinions, but like, I just want to hear your opinion about it, because you also had this experience of like becoming an artist in Israel and, what it means to you. And you even said yourself, your friends did parties in Yao Ben Shemen, I'm assuming, and that whole area where we grew up, I think that besides for being a terrible place, it also facilitates a lot of good things,
Yeah.
like parties, like doofs, like the freedom of expression.
I think it's a very strong a contradicting force. Like
Yeah,
there's so much shit, there's so much bad things going on, and people it's just people, so many good people that live in this like sometimes really terrible situation, always slightly terrible.
yeah,
Um, and it's like it's the way to cope.
yeah,
It's like and I think this is why, for example, the 90s were so strong
yeah,
in Israel, like the trans scene, like it's because of this hardship. It's because you have to go to the military.
yeah.
Um, it's
Lebanon
because you
War.
might have experienced, yeah, it's because you might have experienced a war in your life, and um, yeah, like I think this is it might be for a lot of people, it might be the only same place, um, and this is why there's such amazing doofs and parties and dance floors, and um, yeah, it's that important. I think more than maybe, I don't want to compare, but it's that important. Like when I went there, like just now, I went to like two parties, like bush doofs, like out in the bush, and I felt I felt so much, like you can feel that how much the people need it. Whoever's going there, it's because they really need to dance. They have, like always in Israel, I feel like everyone in dance floor, especially in the bass scene, which is my scene, you know, like people have something to unload always. And you know, with the bass, it's like, you know, because it's so like there's a lot of energy in the bass, and it lets you like, um, yeah. But what I'm saying is that you could really feel it. Like you could really um, feel that people are caring a lot, and they came here to, yeah, to really let something um, make something a bit more loose. I don't know.
Yeah, they're releasing the
I don't have the
demons.
best words for this.
No, it's releasing
Yeah,
of
releasing the
demons. You know,
demons.
this is something that you know, if you've ever been to a dance floor, whether it's bass or psytrance, where there's a lot of people, where there's psychedelics, where there's heavy music, you know, whether it's heavy bass or fast BPM music, like people are releasing demons. Like this is, you know, and that's like the negative aspect of it. But people are expressing themselves and releasing their energy. They're being reborn. They're being rejuvenated. They're being um, re you know there's that whole meme in Modem of like the reprogramming. You know, did you see
Yeah.
that the thing? Yeah, it's like they're
Yeah,
being
yeah, yeah.
reprogrammed. You know, it's not necessarily that there's not an agenda behind it. That people are literally being reprogrammed by frequencies, by self-expression, by energy. And this is something that I think our ancestors did as well. I mean, what's a drum circle? You know, what's the in our culture, you know, in many cultures, every culture has their own thing, but in our culture, you had the Great Temple, and the Great Temple, you had music and singing and dancing. That's literally what they did whenever they wanted to do a sacrifice or praise God, or, you know, bring in a equinox or a solar thing or whatever. You know, they did music and dance, you know, and they sacrificed animals, but like, that's just like, cause they were like, you know, kind of stupid, but like, the point is that, like, you know, they knew the power of this energy, this release and return of energy. You know, you dance, you pound the earth vibrates, the earth then vibrates, it then sends signals into the trees then create oxygen, and the oxygen then creates water, and the water comes down and feeds you, and then there's, you know, the frequency of the sound that goes into the air, and the air, you know, feeds the tree, you know, and it just kind of like circle and cycle. And if you've ever been to a dance floor, you can literally feel the cycle. There's a torus field that goes from the center, always goes outwards, inwards, outwards, inwards, outwards, inwards, and inwards, outwards, inwards, outwards, inwards, outwards. And it's like something that's tangible, you know, you can feel it. It's not the music hitting you in the face. It's the music going through your body, back into the earth, back into the speaker, back into the earth, you know, back into you, back into the earth, back into the speaker, and then the opposite direction. It's like, it's a field, you know, and that's how energy is. That's how literally how the universe works. You know, that's how neurons and atoms and stuff that I don't know enough about work, you know? So to me, it's like a very normal thing for people to want to go and dance and be free. And I think that what you said is totally true of like Israelis, because of all the, and again, it's not about politics. It's not about like the average Israeli is not a bad person. Okay. Like, it doesn't matter if they voted for Bibi Netanyahu or not. They're not a bad person. They're just misled. They're just wrong. Being wrong and being bad are two different things. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
You know, and most Israelis don't even know what's going on because the media is extremely censored. So you can say all day, well, there's the internet. They go on the internet. Yeah, but if you're being censored about something, you're not going to go look for the thing that you're being censored about. It just doesn't happen. It's not like ads are popping up in Israelis' news feeds about like dead children in Gaza. It just doesn't happen. They don't know about it. They're not seeing it. And
Not
whoever,
exposed.
what's what?
They're not exposed to it.
They're not exposed to it. And also another thing is that even if they are exposed to it, their brain is so indoctrinated that they don't see it. That's what propaganda does. That's what Goebbels invented. Like, propaganda is not about believing something. It's about denying something that isn't the thing that you're being told. Propaganda is not like, this is right and this is wrong. It's that anything that isn't the thing that I'm being told is wrong. So that's just like the start off. So my point is that, like, the average person is just trying to have a good life, and it's difficult for them to have a good life when all they know is war, death, and destruction. And this goes for everybody in this region, not only Israelis. Anyway, so I think that you're a spiritual person. You're a very connected person to yourself, to the spirit, to the universe. I pray, we can pray together that, like, something will change and that there'll be something positive and strong and good that will come out of this whole situation, and that through our expression and through our creativity and through our release of that energy, change will come to the world, whether it's the person standing next to us, or whether it's the person watching this, or whether it's the person or whether it's just ourselves. And I really thank you for your time, and I love you so much, and I hope I'll see you soon. And thank you.
Amen. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the conversation, and thanks for supporting me through this, because I've shared with you that I've had some anxiety towards this recording, but actually, this gives me a lot of confidence.
Good.
Because you're awesome. Thank you so much. I love you, and I hope to see you again soon as well.